Hi, everybody. I'm attorney Jason McGrath, and this is another installment of Carolina Contracts. We're going to talk about factual recitals today. Recitals often follow the introductory paragraph of a contract. So you may have a factual recital that starts with the word whereas, because we lawyers like to be real fancy. And it may say, whereas the parties endeavor to enter into a confidential relationship to mutually develop intellectual property, to use blah, 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 blah. And those factual recitals actually later can play great roles of importance. So it could be that later on there's a dispute or just something isn't quite working out and you end up in a lawsuit, right? And the court will actually look at those factual recitals and say, well, wait a second. These factual recitals appear to be items that the parties themselves agreed were true and correct at the time they signed the contract. So what you may have happen is one party says, well, wait a second, Judge. The whole deal back then was we were going to provide only a certain aspect of the products and services. The other side had to do their part. And the whole point of this was to get us in a better market position, et cetera, et cetera. And the other side may say, well, wait a second, Judge. No, no, no. Let's look at the contract itself. Contract says here in the factual recitals that the purpose of this contract was X, Y, and Z. The court typically is going to look at that and say, you know what? This contract appears to have been entered into properly. It was executed by the parties. Both parties seem to have had some clue what they were doing. And I am not going to go back in time and try to unravel who said what behind the scenes or who had what intention or whatever. I'm going to look at these recitals and I'm going to accept them as true and correct because they're in the contract and they appear to be what the parties agreed to. So the facts that a contract might be based on and the purpose of the contract is somewhat different than the duties and obligations that are, inserted into the rest of the contract. But those underlying facts, of course, impact the entire rest of the contract. So the factual recitals are really, really important, and you have to be very, very careful to make sure that nothing that's in there is inaccurate, and also consider, is there something else we want in here that provides some fundamental background information about the contract that we would want a court or some other party to know in the future should the need ever arise. So just be mindful of that, be careful of those factual recitals, and make sure that what you have in there is what you want in there. All right, thanks.